stars, Josh Rosen. Oh, it's a Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday coming off of a Monday night football game. We got to see sunshine. We got to see Jameis. We got to see Taysom Hill. We got more COVID among the Cowboys. Thank you, Jimmy. The chosen Rosen has been chosen by yet another NFL team after he was cut by the San Francisco 49ers. Everything from the world of NFL football to college football and the Texas Longhorns. We love Tuesdays because we get to check in with Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. She is in the know on all things Texas Longhorns and Texas Longhorns football. She's going to join us at 8:05. In fact, in the 8 o'clock hour as well, just after 8:30, history was made last night in Major League Baseball for the first time since 1901, and only the third time ever two teams in Major League Baseball played a game, each of them on a 9-game winning streak. It was the New York Yankees and the Atlanta Braves last night. Yankees came away with a 5-1 victory. So Yankees have won 10 in a row now. So we'll talk a little baseball history, New York Yankees, Atlanta Braves, and more with our resident New York Yankees freak, broadcaster, jazz man, David Munoz, going to join us just after 8:30. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler is your soundscape stylist. Shannon, how are you this morning?
I'm doing all right. You were talking about baseball. Baseball people are such nerds.
Yeah. Oh God, yes.
You talk about this stat, and you'd think with as long as baseball's been around and as many games that we've seen it all.
Yeah.
That it's already been done. But they find ways to dive in deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so many statistics. So I'm excited for that because I'm not as fluent in baseball. But you did tell me about that stat. That's pretty cool.
Well, and that one amazes
I don't know how
me.
I feel about the Yankees.
Yeah, I
don't
like the Yankees.
Dreams, things have kind of swung the right way.
Ooh, I hate to think of it in those terms. That the dream field might have been good luck for the Yankees. I think it was. That is fascinating. We'll look that up. I think it was. Yes, you do. Well, see, and that's what I find amazing about that statistic. Not since 1901 have two teams on a 9-game win streak faced each other. 162 games per year per team. And that's over. This is 2021. That's over 100 years. And that didn't happen. That didn't happen like in 1972 or that didn't happen in 1989 or that didn't happen 3 years ago. I mean, that it just amazes me. So many darn games being played that something like that is so rare. So, and it's when there's a baseball story of note. We're not a hardcore baseball. I mean, I love the Houston Astros. They lose again last night, but thank goodness the Oakland A's also lost. So Astros continued to maintain that 3.5-game lead. With baseball, Shannon, 162 games to me is too damn long. I mean, God love them and God love baseball. And I know for decades it was the American pastime. And I think it was a great game for America in like the 1930s, 1940s. And every time until we got into the hardcore TV and certainly the internet era. And whenever I bring up baseball, whether you like it or not, there's a 9-part Ken Burns documentary that's usually on Netflix. It's certainly on PBS.com. And I know during the pandemic a year ago, Ken Burns, the documentarian, went to PBS and said, hey, can you just make this available for free at PBS.com? People are locked up with a pandemic. America. He's a big baseball guy, obviously. So it may or may not still be up at pbs.com for free. Highly recommend it. Any documentary. If Ken Burns did a documentary on paint drying, it would rock and be riveting, and I would be all over it. So I highly recommend that. But it's hard for me to get into it till right about now, right as you're kind of finishing out August, and September is the last full month of the regular season, typically 162 games. We now have a sense of who the good teams are, who the bad teams are, what are the races, is there anything exciting going on in a race, who's going to the postseason, and that's kind of where we are now. So, now I think we begin, at least I do, to kind of dip my toe in the water a little bit with regard to Major League Baseball.
I'm certainly more into it this time of year than the rest of the year. The only issue that is still in front of them is that football is getting underway.
True.
And as great as October is for baseball, it's huge for college football. Things start to get interesting in the NFL. And it's just a busy time of year in general. I always kind of love it when a World Series game, especially if it's a game 7 or a game 6, right, where things are on the line. The World Series ends up being on Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Then you have all the dads that are you got the one dad who's got the responsibility of holding the phone with the game on for everyone, and then just the rest of them like really annoyed and wanting their kids to hurry up, and how many houses do we have to hit? Or I love it. I know they don't love it, but I love it. I love watching it. That's almost more fun than the game. Just watching the annoyed dads come down the street.
Yeah, and again, as you mentioned, October playoff baseball, either for a league championship series or the World Series, something about it, an outdoor stadium, you see like the breath coming out of the mouths of the players, late innings, every swing counts, fans going crazy in the stands, tension everywhere. That's great. I mean, and I guess that's our reward for sitting through 162 regular season games plus playoffs. But and lately, the Astros have been a big part of that, have been a big force in the postseason for the last several years. Oh my God! Speaking of baseball, and we'll get into it, Shannon. I didn't think we'd open up talking this much baseball. We will move into football, for the love of God, which is the greatest sport on the face of this earth. But this California Angels situation, you and I exchanged texts or messages on it yesterday. As tragic as it was when they had a player die, and that was Tyler Skaggs, and that happened on July 1st, 2019. My goodness, I can't believe it's been over 2 years. It seems like that story was just yesterday with the LA Angels, but apparently the connection of that guy who was supplying drugs to Angels pitcher Tyler Skaggs, apparently, he was involved in a whole lot more and handing out illegal drugs to other players. And it's just the DEA is involved, and there's more of an investigation involved. And it's just very, very, it's an ugly, ugly, ugly situation for the LA Angels.
You'd think with as many games as baseball plays, they'd be busy. They wouldn't have time on their hands, especially if they're working within an organization, to basically run a drug ring.
Yeah.
And then use players as middlemen for it. And then take the risk of what ultimately happened of something horribly, horribly wrong taking place. And now that, when Tyler Skaggs passed away, I thought this is horrible. How could it get any worse? And here we are.
And again, this is a horrible thing that the LA Angels, that happened within their organization. One of their players dies as a result of it. Other players and other staffers are involved, and the bad guys in Major League Baseball are the Houston Astros. I mean, you're not going to hear people booing the Angels and, oh, drug people, murderer. No, the Astros are public enemy number one.
That's baseball logic.
Football, lots to talk about in football. More Dallas Cowboys positive tests for COVID, or at least quarantines for COVID. The Dallas Cowboys yesterday had to go all virtual in training camp. This is not good. And again, it's so weird. On one level, you had the news, the Cowboys announced that 93% of their players are fully vaccinated. And so you back check the math and you go, okay, the Cowboys, 93% of Cowboys players are fully vaccinated. There are currently 86 players on the roster until they make the next cut. That means to get to 93%, 80 out of the 86 players on the Cowboys roster are vaccinated, which begs the question for me, what is up? And Cole Beasley's not walking through those doors. He's on the Buffalo Bills, and he doesn't like vaccines. What is up with the 6 on the Dallas Cowboys? And can Jerry Jones or can a doctor, especially now that the FDA has approved? That was one of the reasons some people didn't get vaccinated. Oh, no, yeah. I'm waiting for FDA approval. This is still experiment. Well, okay, it happened yesterday. It's FDA approved. So you've got 6 Cowboys not vaccinated. Now you have this story that as many as 6 players, including defensive coordinator Dan Campbell, who was not there Saturday night for the Cowboys-Texans game, now at least quarantining for COVID. Here we go again. 2020 all over again. This is having an impact on, in this case, the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm just thankful it's happening now in the final week of preseason rather than going into a game. But
you're assuming it's not going to happen in the regular season.
Right. But, we kind of saw last year when teams were having this issue, they would have it once and then it'd kind of be done and over with. And especially when, Dan Quinn is still getting his feet wet. He's still, he's new to the position for the Cowboys. And, it sucked that he was out. Right. I mean, the defense still played very well, but you want him to get those reps in just as much as you want to see players on the field getting those reps in. So I'm just happy that if it's going to happen, it's happening now and not during the regular season. And to me, the Cowboys did the right thing by being virtual these last few days. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. I think tonight's Hard Knocks episode will end with Saturday's game against the Texans.
Yes.
So we won't probably find out. We'll probably hear a little bit about Dan Quinn's situation, but we won't find out what it really means or looks like when it's virtual. I mean, I guess going back to last year, it was more like team meetings and guys kind of having to take it upon themselves to work out at their own homes in their own facilities. But what that means as far as scheming and, Dak has just started to get into throwing, and then now we're not having in-person situations. It's not great.
Well, and I saw a comment on our live video stream from Tracy Bogert, who says one of these 6 Dallas Cowboys who isn't vaccinated gives people COVID and they have to cancel a game, and the Cowboys bear the entire financial responsibility. Speaking of financial responsibility, Shannon, now I am hearing that the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, is FDA approved. This is now opening the door, not just for police departments, for fire departments, for school districts to now mandate, 6:23 in the morning. The voice doesn't always work. Mandate vaccines. But think about the NFL. Now that it's FDA approved, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. Jerry Jones, and the commissioner talked about this during the offseason. If there's a big enough of a COVID outbreak, teams will have to forfeit games. If Jerry Jones or any other owner in the NFL has to forfeit a game, that is millions and millions of dollars in financial losses for that team. Not to mention for a team, it could be the difference between going to or not going to the playoffs. If you have a loss there that could have been a victory and you just miss the playoffs. What I'm getting at is I think you're going to see not only businesses mandate vaccines more, and I've already heard in the last 24 hours since yesterday when that story broke that the Pfizer vaccine is FDA approved, that municipalities, police departments, fire departments, other organizations are now going to mandate vaccines. But see, the NFL now, I think, is on better legal ground to mandate a vaccine. And obviously there are going to be people like wide receiver Cole Beasley of your Buffalo Bills saying, nope, not going to do it. It's my freedom. It's affecting my freedom. Well, I think people are going to say, well, this is a business. This is now the rule of the business based on FDA approval. You have the freedom to go find employment elsewhere because the rules of the National Football League will be mandating vaccine. We're not there yet. It's where I think it's going, but I truly believe with all of these millions of dollars involved, it's where I believe we are headed.
Yeah, I'm on that same mindset. And I know people are probably like, what's $1 million to a guy like Jerry Jones who has billions of dollars? And I always think back to Kobe talking about why he took on so many, extra business ventures outside of basketball because he was already making so much money in basketball and he was setting himself up for the future. And he said, look, I live a certain lifestyle with the money I have. A lot of guys get out of their sports and they continue living that lifestyle, but they don't have any other source of income. And that's why guys end up going broke. So even for billionaires who are maybe end up losing a couple $1 million, whatever, that's still money out of their pocket based on the lifestyle that they live. I mean, it's the same as like me foregoing a check, right? I mean, it's just on a different level. So I would not be surprised if the NFL, because they basically they're like that, they're at that point, right? Like they've pretty much done everything they could say aside from saying you have to get the vaccine. And then you have, Coach Ron Rivera and Mike Zimmer who are advocating passionately for their team members and coaching staff to get vaccinated. Mike Zimmer is like, it's not about you, the player, it's about you and your family, right? Because it's a virus, right? It affects more than just one person. And I'm with them, and I do agree with you. We are I think nearing that point. I don't know when the NFL would end up saying it, especially with the season just around the corner, because it'd be hard to say to do it right now when you're already kind of in the middle of things. How do you handle that? But I'm here for it. I'm okay with it. I wouldn't be surprised if, like you said, more companies just after today start announcing that people need to get vaccinated in order to keep their jobs.
It's going to be something to keep an eye on, and it continues to affect the world of sports. And I know we got a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans among our listenership. And great point by Shannon. Hard Knocks tonight, episode 3, 9:00. It drops. I'm faced with my Tuesday night dilemma once again. Do I stay up and watch it because I'm a freak for the Cowboys, or do I do the responsible thing, get a good night's sleep, and watch it on replay when I wake up? We'll figure all that out. Coming up, the high five play of the day has to do with a quarterback in the National Football League. You'll find out what that's all about. A little bit later, 7:00 hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, this day in sports history, sports birthdays. I mentioned Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7, just after 8:00. Baseball guru and Yankees fan, but we still like him. David Munoz going to join us just after 8:30. Your phone calls all morning long. Anything on your mind? You want to react to anything in the world of sports or beyond? 800-707-9760. Lots of people already joining us on the live video feed. Welcome in. Get there via Facebook, via YouTube, via Twitch, and elsewhere. Ooh, and there's some Twitch news this morning. I'm going to have to lay on Twitch enthusiast Shannon Salty Sweeney. We will introduce Dave Ayler, and on video we'll show you his T-shirt this morning as he's making a statement with his T-shirt. Clearly, lots coming up. We're with you till 9. We're all over the world of sports on a Taco Tuesday. Thanks for hanging out. It's the Chris Duel Show. All right, Beth Settle, good morning. I see Anthony Del Toro, Steve Duraco, the original Rock, Hector Gomez, president of the Bexar County MAGA Republicans and coronavirus deniers. Hector Gomez, good morning. Jason Paniagua, Luisa Alanis, Clint Proctor, Sam Tobias, the pride of HEB. God bless every HEB employee. You're a frontline worker. You people are amazing. Ralph Balderas, good morning. Joe Leal, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to our world. Beth Settle, you are up way too early when you can sleep in. What are you doing? see, Taro Kotani, the great Taro Kotani tagged me on something. Yeah, Astros lose again last night, but the A's lost. What you got teams like the Yankees that are red hot, and the Astros are kind of floundering. I got a bad feeling about the Astros unless they really get it together quickly. But they've been kind of streaky all season. They'll lose 4, then they'll win 6. So we shall see. I need to go make a coffee run. I'm going to go do that. Then I need to, some point this morning, we're going to have David Munoz in studio, and he's not hip to the live video feed. We use a StreamYard for it. So I'm going to need to maybe set up my camera for that. But if I do that, I will need... If I do that, I'm going to need my earbuds, because otherwise you get an echo, which is not good. Coffee, it's the wonder drug that works wonders. Caffeine, because management frowns upon crystal meth and cocaine. Although Cocaine is an excellent song by Eric Clapton, who's coming to Austin. Hard Knocks tonight. Thank you, Jesus. Praise Tom Landry. Mountain Dew and meth, says Tracy Bogert. Jason, we I kind of messaged Tanner Carlson and text with him. I do want to have him back on the show at some point here. He's started a new gig, and he's got a new baby. So, I mean, he's got 2 things in his life. Maybe, though, Shannon and I will be doing our NFL and Dallas Cowboys, of course, predictions before the regular season. Maybe we'll bring Tanner on for a segment to make his predictions official as well, put it on the record so that we can publicly humiliate him if he's wrong. I did, and I can go pull it up. I did nail the Super Bowl last year before the season. And, now it's like, yeah, of course, that was the matchup. Going into the season, not a lot of people had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the Super Bowl. A lot of people had the Saints. I said it would be Tampa Bay versus Kansas City with Tampa Bay winning. That's something else that people said, you're insane. Brady's old. He's a brand new team. He's not going to do it again. So I'm going to crow about that as long as I can, because it's rare that I nail the two teams in the winner. Bucks and Chiefs again this year. That's the likely scenario, Tracy. But, rarely is it wire to wire. Rarely is it, the teams that you just know it's going to be. When I move this whole camera situation is funky these days. Thanks to Calvin Casey, Jonas Clark, and the Sports Grind. I would blame Mike Hardball Harge, but he's not in this studio to screw with the camera. God love him. And while I bring up the camera situation, I still love Jonas Clark and Calvin Casey. Wish they wouldn't mess with the camera as much. That's all. All right. Steph and Seth Curry's parents are splitting up. And I still don't have a poll question. And now that we're almost back, we're not going to have one by the top of the hour. Let's see. Okay. I'm not going to have time to put it up. But maybe now that the Pfizer vaccine has FDA approval, should the NFL and other sports leagues mandate that its players and staff get the vaccine? Maybe that's it. I don't know. Tracy says, I have a bad feeling about Dak. Tracy, I kind of do too. And I hope he proves us wrong. I hope he just rocks, continues to have a spectacular comeback year. Okay, so if I'm going to have that camera on David Munoz, I therefore should probably charge it or plug it in. Welcome back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney on a Taco Tuesday, August 24th. And praise Tom Landry. We have another episode of Hard Knocks dropping tonight. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Johnson from Port Arthur, Texas. Elementary school, junior high school, and high school classmate of one Janis Joplin. Still want to see that 30 for 30. I want to go back in time to Port Arthur High School and see if football stud Jimmy Johnson.
Well, you know what 30 for 30 we are getting?
What's that?
About Time. Exclusively on the Longhorn Network, of course, but it's the Texas side of the 2005 championship season, premiering August 30th, and then the next episode on September 1st. So that's going to be awesome because I've seen the USC side, right? I mean, all the buildup, and it was their year. They were going to go back to back, and they had all the pieces in place, and then it was spoiled at the end. So I'm excited to finally get to see the Texas side of things.
Woo! I can't wait for that. Woo! I just want to relive having my heart torn out.
What a way to get started.
Every time. God, every time I see it in the Longhorn Network, the game itself tends to play that game a lot.
Well, lately we've been lacking in other games that could get people going in that same way. That one and the A&M game seem to be on there all the time, and like a random OU game.
But I will admit, even though my beloved USC Trojans lost that national championship game at the Rose Bowl to the Longhorns, I still think that is the greatest college football game ever for so many reasons. Two marquee schools. You had Vince Young being Superman. The location, the Rose Bowl, is so iconic in America. You had that USC team, which was on a roll and looked like a juggernaut.
Yes.
With Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and company. So, Pete Carroll, versus Mac Brown. My God, it had everything.
Yeah, it's hard to say. When you say it as a Texas fan, people are like, you're just saying that because, like, you guys were in it and you won. It's like, yeah, but, like, you don't understand. Like, the storylines were all over the place.
Yeah.
On both sides. And then the game itself was phenomenal. If you're a football fan, you can't say that wasn't a great game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this other point of view version.
And when does that drop? Do we know?
August 30th, I believe.
August 30th. Woo! We're 6 days away. Very cool. We'll have to continue to track that. Before we do the high five play of the day, let's welcome in our soundscape stylist, man about town. You know him, you love him, you can't get enough of him. He wakes up even earlier than Shannon and I do every morning. In fact, by the time this radio show starts in the morning, he has already worked another radio show. That would be down the hall in San Antonio at 1200 WOAI News Talk Radio, the 50,000-watt blowtorch. Mr. Dave Ayler, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing good, Chris. How are you doing?
Good, and you were sporting another plain T-shirt.
Plain Shirt Tuesday.
Plain Shirt Tuesday.
Or just Clean Shirt Tuesday, I guess is probably what I should change the name to. But, and you think Ken Burns would do a good job with the documentary on the USC and UT game?
God, yes.
Ken Burns can, like just like you said, he can anything. His first one was on the Brooklyn Bridge. I had watched the baseball one and Civil War and some other ones. I go, how can this be interesting? I watched it and I sat there and watched the whole thing because it was that interesting.
Well, and I am not a country music fan. I mean, I love a little bit of, I love Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and some classic country music. I like a little bit of more modern, a little George Strait. I'm not anti-country music. I grew up a classic rock and a Beatles fan, which is not exactly country music. But Ken Burns did a documentary on country music that is mind-blowing. And part of what his genius is his storytelling. He will tell you about people in whether it's country music or the Civil War or baseball or Brooklyn Bridge or Prohibition or whatever he's doing. And he will engage you in such a way and you will learn things you never knew. And it's mind-blowing. Ken Burns is a national treasure. Any documentary he ever does, I would be all over it.
And I'm with you. I watched that country musical documentary too, and I'm like with you. I'm average country music fan, and I thought it was great. And Muhammad Ali is coming in second week of September, I think.
Are you kidding me? Is it that close?
Yeah, I think it's second or third week in September.
We'll have to.
Ken Burns on Muhammad Ali.
My goodness, can't wait for that. I'm old enough to remember watching Ali box, and he was just such a force of nature. He was so entertaining. I mean, he took a stand for what was right, and my goodness, I'm a huge fan. And interestingly, Ali You think about somebody like a Colin Kaepernick who was scorned for taking a knee and banned from the NFL and blackballed from the NFL for doing that, essentially. Muhammad Ali, when he refused to go to Vietnam and fight in the Vietnam War, there was half this country that hated him and said, how dare you? Because that was a time in America when whatever your country wants you to go serve and you don't, nobody does that. And if you do, the rest of us scorn you. I mean, he was hated by so many people. And in retrospect, by the time he passed away and since he's passed away, he's pretty much beloved. And a lot of people look back at the stand he took. And part of Muhammad Ali's position on Vietnam was, hey, the North Vietnamese people never did anything to me. I have no argument with them. I'm not going to go kill them. At the time, it was unheard of and an outrage. And a lot of people look back at that war and why that war was waged. And a lot of people say that was not a good war and that a lot of people have forgiven or even applauded now Muhammad Ali for the stance he took back then. Not to in any way. I mean, I grew up in a military family. My dad served in Vietnam and my brother served in the Vietnam era, not in any way to question or denigrate the heroism of those who did serve in that era, because there were certainly a lot of heroic American men and women. And if you can ever go look at that Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C., it will stop you in your tracks. It will make you cry and just graphically show you the toll on Americans that Vietnam War took. Over 58,000 American lives taken in that Vietnam War. All right, we go from a not so happy topic to a happy topic. Let's get into something good. It's the high five play of the day. At this time every morning, somebody deserves a high five, so we give it out. High five appropriately brought to you by High Five, 2 locations in Austin with everything you're looking for. Big screen TVs to watch sports, great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, great games, bowling, axe throwing, laser tag, a whole lot more. Next time you go to High Five in Austin, look around. You may see Shannon Salty Sweeney wielding an axe. Right now, she is wielding a high five. What do you got for us?
Look, I know Carson Wentz has done some things in the past, right? He's very much about himself in terms of his football career. He's been said to be a bit of a whiner. He goes to the Indianapolis Colts and they find this injury. He has surgery. They timetable him, 5 to 12 weeks. He's already back at practice. So good for him. I think it's a little early. And he's a guy that at times he can be hard to like, especially when you were formerly an Eagle. I mean, as a Cowboys fan, it's really hard to like. But I am now Team Carson Wentz because yesterday it was announced that he and his wife, along with their foundation, donated $250,000 to Haiti's earthquake relief fund. Haiti had a 7.2 earthquake. I hear that's pretty big.
Yes. God, yes.
And they took it upon themselves to donate $250,000. That is a large chunk of money. This money specifically will go to providing medical supplies and shelter for those in need. I think it's fantastic. I mean, we see guys in the league give chunks of cash all the time. A couple grand here, 20 grand there. But $250,000 just like that is huge. So I give him a high five because, I do rag on him a little bit. And for the narrative right now to be all about him and his injury, will he be the starter, or is this just another story of Carson Wentz kind of falling out of line? For him to do this at this time is just incredible. So a high five to Mr. Carson Wentz and his wife.
And, in the case of, Haiti, I don't know that, a lot of times someone will give when they have a connection to, say a community is hit by a hurricane, like Katrina hits New Orleans. So people who are from New Orleans might say, oh man, that's my hometown. Let me help. I don't know. And I don't think Carson Wentz or his wife have a direct connection to Haiti. So to me, not only the amount of money, Shannon, but all the more reason, here's just a part of the world, not far from the mainland USA, but certainly a different culture than Carson Wentz might be used to. And for him to just help out fellow human beings on a big scale like this is wonderful.
He and his wife said they, felt heartbroken for those people in a place that they hold close in their heart. So I think they do some missions there with one of their groups, and his fund AO1 is their whole mission is to uplift individuals and communities around the world. So he's done things like built parks and basketball courts and places for kids to go play in their community and things like that. And this is just this is probably their biggest donation as of yet. They said with this $250,000 in the last 48 hours, because that's when he officially made the announcement. They've got 418 people down there in Haiti currently helping out, thanks to the money that he and his wife donated. So fantastic, Mr. Carson Wentz. I'm not going to get your jersey. But you're not in an Eagles uniform anymore, and therefore I can give you a high five.
Well, but he's also, though, and this is why this is big of you, Shannon, to be on Team Carson Wentz now, because he is in direct competition for starting quarterback playing time with your boy Sam Ehlinger in Indianapolis.
He's not fully back yet. He was practicing yesterday. You sent me a video of him running around out there on the field.
My God, not just running around, but just kind of moving. I mean, like, almost like, that little move that Dak does before the game where he kind of moves and moves and moves and moves. It wasn't that exactly, but it was akin to that. And I'm looking at like the ankles moving all over the turf. It made me cringe a little bit.
It's so strange because before the season started, right, and before they were like, oh, he's got this injury, there was nothing. It was like, he's good to go, he's fine. And then they found this, and I guess it was more precautionary to get it fixed. And then they get this weird timetable with so many weeks in between of what it could be for his return. Then he returns earlier than all of that. And we saw what happened when he returned too early last time. And for his health, I don't want that. For Sam Ehlinger, it might not be the worst thing ever, but we'll see. I mean, we don't know what they've got one more preseason game. It'll be interesting to see if he gets in there and see what he does with it. But I think if he's ready to go, I think they'll have no problem giving him that starting job until he proves them otherwise.
And one more thing that strikes me about Carson Wentz, as you brought him up, and as you mentioned that, you think he had missions, he's done missions in Haiti, especially that Super Bowl year that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl and Carson Wentz was knocked out by injury. I remember seeing interviews with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles and even Zach Ertz of the tight end of the Eagles, and all of them citing that they are devout Christians, that they're quite Christian, which God love them, good for them. But I think about Tim Tebow, and for it's amazing how in people's mind, Tim Tebow, people felt, because he'd get down on one knee and kind of genuflect and get into that Tebowing pose after a big play, where he was kind of, in his own way, honoring God. And that put a lot of people off, putting, on the eye black, putting Bible verses. But, not so many people put off by the way Carson Wentz or a Nick Foles or a Zach Ertz go public with their faith. And I even think back to Roger Staubach, that the Hail Mary pass was part of Roger was and is a devout Catholic. And yet nobody goes, oh, Roger, come on, man. Hail Mary, you're in my face with your religion. It is interesting how people have had that adverse reaction to Tebow, but not as much other athletes who reveal their faith.
I mean, I would say in Tebow's case, he was winning on a regular basis.
Roger was winning. Yeah. Okay.
But Tebow also, I think, wore it a little bit more on his sleeve than.
Yeah, you didn't hear it every game from Roger or
coverage and TV at and just time difference too.
Yeah.
Coverage of Tebow and the close-up shot of all of those, Bible verses and such. I think there was more out there to hate. People love to hate a winner.
Yes, they do. And
especially when they're on TV as much as Tim Tebow.
And they love to see that winner fall. All right, coming up, we got to talk about the Pac-12, Big Ten, and ACC alliance. How will that affect the SEC, the Longhorns, and more? Lots to talk about coming up on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Michelle Johnson from Marysville, Kansas. Welcome in. Ralph Balderas, what is up? David Valles, Yankees win 10 straight. You are correct. We will talk Yankees Baseball, Braves, and more at 8:35. David, with another Yankees fan, David Munoz, which reminds me, let me see if I have earbuds in my little bag here. It's becoming a big bag. I haven't emptied it out lately. Excuse me. Earbuds would be nice, but I don't think I have them in here. All right. There have to be some in my car, I would think. Oh, I know exactly where they are. Yeah, I know what bag I put them in. I'll do that in a minute. I have to now edit some commercials. Yeah, a Yankees Dodgers World Series would not surprise a lot of people about now. And the TV networks would love that. Baseball would love that. On a league level, obviously, the Houston Astros and I would not love that. But all right, let me see this. Delete that. Chris here for the great folks at R&R Auto Glass. It's where I take my vehicle. They can replace any piece of glass on your vehicle. Chip filling and repair, window regulators, camera calibration, all with a lifetime warranty. They've got a mobile service. They can come to you if you need it. Senior military GSA discount. Ask them about the Duel deal. Save even more money off the already low reasonable pricing. Okay. Everything's at the website, rnrautoglass.com. R&R Auto Glass. Okay, this is next Monday. Next Monday is the 30th of August. Three. Carl Fisher, good morning. Carl Fisher, is that right? Is that this Saturday? Are you kidding me? Let me go take a look. Oh my God, we've got Thursday night football. No, that's September 2nd. Oh, so you're talking about week 0. This doesn't give me week 0. Yeah, that's right. Andy Everett told me about that. Nebraska, Illinois. I did. Okay. As UTSA will play Illinois. Yep, Saturday at high noon on Fox. Carl says this game was supposed to be played in Ireland, but thanks to COVID, it's played in Illinois. I did not know that. Glad you know this stuff, Carl Fisher. Passing along this information. I'm not up on my Nebraska versus Illinois football that was set to be played in Ireland. Good morning to the 18. I just saw 19. Somebody jumped out. Currently 18 people viewing us. Good morning. On a Taco Tuesday. Yeah, Carl, I agree with you. Football is the best season. And we are on the cusp. We get Hard Knocks tonight. Thank you, Jesus, and praise Tom Landry. Cody Webb, good morning.
Now, Chris Dupe.
It is Taco Tuesday. It is Hard Knocks Tuesday night. Later tonight, we got all kinds of sports going on in our world as we get ready for the NFL season. And I was just reminded on Facebook Live. Thank you, Jim Morrison. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And Shannon, I'm sure you saw on Facebook Live, the live video feed. Of course, you can either get there through Facebook or through YouTube or through Twitch. But Carl Fisher watching and participating this morning, reminding us, and Andy Everett, we spoke with him yesterday, brought this up. We got college football this coming Saturday at high noon in the Central Time Zone on Fox. The Nebraska Cornhuskers against the Illinois Fighting Illini. So we can just dive right into college football this coming Saturday. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, week 0. It's at this point, I'm like, why is that not just week 1? Because there's more and more in football to be played. I get it, but also, I was looking for the games this weekend, and there are plenty to be had. So, but yeah, that Nebraska Illinois game is probably the biggest one, especially considering Scott Frost currently being under investigation, and I think he's already on the hot seat. So you maybe you do, maybe you don't want to see Nebraska play well here, but it will certainly be interesting, especially given that they played very few games last season, and they're looking for a full season this year. So that's probably the biggest game taking place this weekend, Chris.
Well, and as I mentioned, for the San Antonio peeps, Andy Everett reminded us that Illinois the very next week will host UTSA, and much is expected of this UTSA football team. So thank you very much, Jeff Traylor, saying birds up, the head coach of the UTSA Roadrunners. In fact, he'll be joining us next Monday at 8:35 on the show, and we'll get his thoughts on what he saw from Illinois in that matchup against Nebraska. So if you're a UTSA fan or just into it, that's another reason to watch that game, kind of scout it a little bit. Speaking of college football, we're expecting the formal announcement today, Shannon, between the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work, but obviously this is a reaction to the SEC just expanding and making itself even more of a behemoth super conference by adding Texas and Oklahoma. It is kind of interesting if you look at the geographic location of those schools that will be in the SEC when you add Texas and Oklahoma. Certainly, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, kind of having certainly more of a Western footprint, certainly having some more teams in the North. You add the ACC, you got a Clemson possibility, Duke, North Carolina, basketball-wise are big deals in the ACC. So going to be interesting to see how this all does shake out and see what we might learn from that announcement.
Yeah, I think people are assuming that this alliance is really to kind of sway any votes that could end up happening in the future, right? That they would all come in aligned and be able to kind of get things to go the way they want them to, while the SEC has become this behemoth. They don't want to keep getting knocked down individually by them. And then, there's the thought of scheduling. Okay, well, that and in my opinion, that may hurt, those smaller schools that live for those first couple of games of the season where they get to go make a ton of money and play a bigger school, where they're now, going to change around their schedules and say, we're going to play teams within these other divisions and make that be part of our normal schedule and switch out teams and create new rivalries. And, it could be really interesting. And then you look at the Big 12, who's still kind of sitting there. I don't know if they're actively making moves behind the scenes, but it certainly doesn't feel like it at this point. It doesn't feel like the conference is trying to save itself. It seems like every school for itself at this point. So it could also be interesting to see, other Big 12 schools currently with the Big 12 start to announce, whether or not they go to a Pac-12 or an ACC or even a Big 10.
Yeah, and then you wonder, you look at just from a branding standpoint, you wonder what Notre Dame ultimately is going to do.
Right.
I mean,
they get left out because
and again, because they're Notre Dame, if they're left, I mean, for so long they had operated as an independent. They'll be fine no matter what because they're Notre Dame. But it makes you wonder, and you bring up the Big 12, 4 schools, like a Texas Tech and like a Baylor and those schools, Kansas State, those schools that will be kind of left out there to dry somewhat in the Big 12. It's such a weird, volatile time in college football that you wonder if at some point the SEC just says, hey, you know what? We're big boy football. We're going to do our thing, and whatever the rest of you do just isn't that relevant because we're so darn big.
Do you think we're heading towards we need a commissioner of college football, and we all kind of fall under that one body? The conferences can remain, but one person to kind of make all of the decisions and get the final say. Because I don't like, it's so weird now that we've got the SEC being what it is and this potential alliance occurring. Is it all to get to the playoffs? What are we doing? Are we doing it for money? Like, there's so many things at play, and then for all this to happen right up to the beginning of this season, and then we're all still playing in our old conferences and with our current schedules, and it's almost like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What's the end game here?
Well, first of all, in a perfect world, I do agree there should be a commissioner, someone who is impartial, overseeing all of this. But
you can take all the blame.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're the SEC, you're going to want somebody from the SEC, and you would be unhappy if it wasn't somebody from the SEC or had SEC roots. If you're not an SEC team, if you're part of this upcoming alliance, you're going to say, it can't be an SEC guy because the SEC already has so much power and so much weight, and they are the biggest conference in college football. So I don't know. I don't know who would vote on who that commissioner would be. I don't know how you'd set up the rules. And I think almost certainly you would have someone either in or out of the SEC, either happy or unhappy with whoever that commissioner might be.
I think the SEC will always have some unhappy folks, but I agree. And I think, I've heard people around these parts say Reed Ryan, right, for what he's done with the Astros and the Rangers, and he's a guy on the outside looking in, so he wouldn't necessarily be from the SEC or from the Big Ten, right? I mean, he'd be just a guy to kind of, we need a manager. We need somebody who can look out and be like, you guys are acting ridiculous at this point, or remind the SEC like, hey, it's not all about you, okay? There's the rest of a country that's playing football, and it's all so much, and it's all happening so quickly. And I'm looking forward to this announcement today, because right now it's all speculation and what this alliance might mean. I mean, could they eventually say, let's all three just be one giant conference? There goes the Power Five.
Which is possible. I mean, it's something that they would look at. I just think, thank goodness, and it will be as soon as we can move to like the 16 team playoff, the better. I mean, because that way, and obviously you have a more of a concentration of very good football programs in the SEC. I think still at 16 teams, I think you're still going to probably have 5, maybe more SEC teams in that 16 team playoff. That certainly benefits the Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners. But see, and you mentioned money. That's part of one of the reasons that why we even had a difficult time getting to a 4-team playoff was there was so much money being made by these bowl games, by these major bowl games like the Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. And even though it doesn't make that huge amount of, even a bowl like the Alamo Bowl, it makes a lot of money. And people are fearful of giving up, the money they're making unless it can be demonstrated to them that, okay, if we go to a 4, which we have, or a 16-team playoff, the way we're going to structure it is this way, and you're still going to make your money. But if people and these organizations that are used to making a lot of money off of college football feel that they're going to lose some of it, then they don't want to do that. But college football, just like the NFL, Shannon, I think is so big that I truly believe that, a 16-team playoff is going to be so huge. I think ratings for all of those games are going to be so high. And I think it's even going to generate so much more excitement than a 4-team playoff. I think it's going to move toward a little bit of what March Madness is where it's like, oh my God, 64 teams and everybody's got a shot. I think on a football scale, you're going to go, oh my God, 16 teams and everybody's got a shot.
Yeah. The 4 seed beats a 1 seed and it's because you're right. I mean, we've had the same rotating cast of characters in the playoffs for so long now. And yes, there have been some great and close games, but a lot of people want to see bigger upsets and want that excitement. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but not everyone is as locked into those games if they're not a part of those organizations already in some way. And I could see that viewership increasing with teams increasing because the excitement, maybe brackets start coming out. I mean, that's a whole, we talked about gambling yesterday. That's a whole other aspect to it. But again, it's just, we are currently, as we sit right now, years away from Texas and OU going to the SEC. We are supposedly hours away from this Pac-12 ACC Big Ten Alliance release with whatever that's going to be. It all seems so very right now and also so far away. It's hard to grasp.
Yeah.
Just play football. Let's just get to playing the football.
Yes, thank goodness. And we'll, in less than an hour, we're going to go much more in depth into Texas Longhorn football. And maybe we should probably ask Taylor Estes as well. She joins us on Tuesdays. We love having her. Her thoughts on what this might lead to with this 3-conference alliance and this announcement that's going to be happening today. But certainly the focus with Taylor will be Longhorn football. Speaking of football, Shannon, I did want to mention this, and I can't believe I'm not that familiar with this town or this school district, but southeast of San Antonio, and you get on like Highway 181 from San Antonio. You start heading down through Floresville to Falls City to Kennedy. Then you hang a left on 72 on your way to Yorktown. There is a town and a school district called, and maybe I'm mispronouncing it. Runge, R-U-N-G-E, could be Rung, could be Runge. I'm not, and I can't believe I don't know this. I grew up in San Antonio, and it's not that far from San Antonio. They are hiring the first female head football coach in high school ever in the state of Texas. Her name is Daisy Garcia. She has broken the gender barrier. Apparently she's taking over as an interim head coach because their head coach, Stephen Davis, has resigned. Before this, Daisy Garcia served as the running backs and the linebackers coach for the varsity team. The first football game for Runge or Rung High School, and somebody can help me out there. I'm sure somebody out there listening right now knows the pronunciation correctly. First football game is going to be September 3rd. And they will soon see if maybe this is a permanent decision. But I have a feeling, Shannon, Daisy Garcia, she's probably going to be picked up by major news networks and will probably be interviewed by national news and sports television programs because there's one, Run G. Okay, Louisa trying to tell me the pronunciation, but I still can't tell by the way you put it. What does it rhyme with, Louisa? Thank you. Remember the name Daisy Garcia. I think we're going to be hearing more of her, and good on her. And I hope she wins the big game on September 3rd, which is her first game as a football head coach. It's kind of a cool thing.
It'll be interesting to see how big this story gets because I've never heard of this school district.
Runge. Yeah. Ralph Baldera is saying it's Runge.
Are they 1A? Are they 2A? Are they half an A? But okay, so and they
Runge, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry that I'm not hip to my Runge high school football, but I'm learning it today though.
There you go. And it's a great story, but again, it's also like I don't want to say she got it handed to her, but I don't know that she was necessarily selected. And again, we don't know a ton about this high school. I mean, that she may have been the only other coach, however small it is, right? There may be some slim pickings over there. I mean, I played high school sports and not everyone is qualified to necessarily be a coach. I mean, sometimes they just need bodies and I'm not saying that that's what she's there for, but I'm not going to go out and be like, oh, she deserves it. She's elite. She's going to be the next greatest thing to happen to high school football.
No, but what I do like, she had herself in a position because she was the running backs and linebackers coach. So this happened because the head coach, Stephen Davis, resigned. By the way, Runge is the Yellow Jackets. If any of you want to run out and purchase your Runge Yellow Jackets jerseys or pennants, getting ready for the big game. But, here's a woman who chose to be a high school football assistant coach and probably had it in her aspirations to maybe one day be a head coach. And you know what? Preparation sometimes leads to opportunity. And by her choosing to be a coach and coach the linebackers and the running backs, now opportunity knocks when the head coach resigned. So Daisy Garcia, this is your moment of history. And I think it's cool. I love it. I hope she wins. I hope it's a big deal. And I hope it's almost like Rudy. It's almost like the movie Rudy. This is like a big moment for her. This is a big moment in Texas. I mean, you think of Texas high school football. We talk about the magazine and, Taylor Estes contributed to it. Dave Campbell's Texas high school football, the Bible, and the Runge Yellow Jackets, I'm sure, because every team is profiled in there. And forever and ever, the first ever high school football head coach will be known as Daisy Garcia. I think it's a cool thing.
Well, a couple interesting things. First, when you look for this, you have to find her name within the articles because all the headlines are female coach, because that's what we're running with. But then she does tweet, and they are still looking for a head coach, so she's not by any means a lock. And then someone did tweet about her being an interim head coach, and she responded saying, as of right now, I'm just helping with the behind the scenes stuff. We are still searching for an AD. I am the point of contact, nothing official, just want what is right for all of our athletes. So if anything, she may just be your standard female who just feels like she has to help out and step in because no one else will do it.
Yeah. But even if that's the case,
I'm salty. I'm sorry.
Well, I know. But even if that's the case, on September 3rd, she's the head coach. She's gonna have the headset on. She's gonna be sending players in and out. She's gonna be making the calls, calling the timeouts, walking the sideline. Can you imagine? And again, clearly a small school, but think of the news media that is going to show up on September 3rd at this Runge Yellow Jackets high school football. It's going to be, it will probably be a mob scene as far as media is concerned, because I think it's a big deal.
The more I look into this, she's also coached basketball, volleyball, and softball. She joined the football team last fall. She had no prior experience in football. So,
which I think makes it even cooler.
Yeah, she won't last long, though. That's all I'm saying.
Well, see, you're glass half empty.
Yeah. And
I'm glass half full.
Sorry, Daisy.
I love it.
I'm here for you for making history and all, but it was like, she got her wish or something. Now she's getting to be a head football coach for a day.
I say, Daisy, have the time of your life on September 3rd and go out there and win and make history. And
earn that job, Daisy.
Woo!
Keep it. It's yours.
Yes.
Take it.
What if they keep winning? It's like, oh my God, we keep Coach Garcia is our coach, and we keep winning football games. The Runge Yellow Jackets, baby. I need me a Runge Yellow Jackets pennant for the studio. Woo! I'm just saying. Anyway, I thought that was cool. Wonder how many media were.
I'm gonna look at her Twitter now.
Wonder. So what's her Twitter handle? Where is Daisy Garcia on Twitter?
Gosh. She went with one of the ones that they give you because it's half of her name.
D Garcia 481930. Okay. All right.
Pretty much.
Well, Daisy Garcia, September 3rd. Go Runge. And see, now I know about the Runge Yellow Jackets. Now I know how to pronounce Runge. And again, it's not that far from San Antonio, and I know most of the towns around here. I'm amazed that, that's how small it is probably. It just never showed up on my radar. So now Elliot is saying a new guy has already been hired. Now that's somebody on Facebook Live, so that's not an official stance, and certainly that's not something that Shannon has discovered from her on-the-spot research.
I'll discover it if it's out there.
Exactly, Elliot. We'll see if you're right or not.
situation.
Coming up, will Daisy Garcia make the salty shakedown is the big question. Coming up, Shannon's salty shakedown. We'll check in with this day in sports history and sports birthdays. Don't forget, top of the hour, just after 8 o'clock, we love talking Texas Longhorns football with Taylor Estes, managing editor of Horns 24/7. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, just after 8:30, Major League Baseball history was made last night between the New York Yankees and the Atlanta Braves. We'll talk about that. We'll talk all things baseball with baseball and New York Yankees aficionado and broadcaster, jazz man, David Munoz, around 8:35. Your phone calls along the way. We have an open line for any Rungy Yellow Jacket. If you're an alum, you're welcome as well. 800-707-9760. With you till 9 o'clock this morning. Go Yellow Jackets. It's the Chris Duel Show. All right. Now, I need All right, Elliot. Thank you. I have my earbuds so I can use my camera on David Munoz. Elliot, I appreciate the research, sir. No mention of Daisy Garcia in the story. Now, is that a story from 2021? Okay, Hotel California is trending on Twitter. I have no idea why Hotel California is trending, but it is. Here we go. Chris Duel show with Shannon Salty Sweeney on a Taco Tuesday. Welcome in. Dave Ayler is your soundscape stylist. Big show coming at you between now and 9 o'clock. We begin our shows every weekday morning at 6. If you're new to the show, we welcome you in. Lots of people joining us on live video. We have a live video feed you can access through Facebook, AM 1300 The Zone, or Ticket 760's Facebook page would get you that live video. You can also get to it via YouTube and via Twitch. Coming up just after the top of the hour, we go deep into Texas Longhorn football with one of the best there ever was, Taylor Estes, the managing editor for Horns 24/7. She will give us the 411 on everything Longhorns. Just after 8:30, we'll talk about Major League Baseball history being made last night as both the Yankees and the Atlanta Braves clashed on a 9-game win streak for each team. Yankees came away with the victory 5-1. David Munoz, the jazz man, broadcaster, Yankees fan, baseball aficionado, going to join us, talk a little Yankees baseball and more coming up just after 8:30. In a moment, Shannon's salty shakedown, but first, this day in for sports birthdays, but right now, this day in sports history. Thank you, Dave Ayler, for the music. August 24th, 1912, a New York City ticker tape parade for Jim Thorpe and the victorious U.S. Olympians 8 years later in Canton, Ohio, Jim Thorpe and others would found a football league that would eventually become the National Football League. On this day in 1983, Cincinnati Red Pete Rose ended his consecutive games played streak at 745 games in a row. This day would be kind of unlucky for Pete Rose. 6 years later, this day in 1989, Pete Rose is suspended from baseball for life for gambling. He has never been reinstated. This day in 2006, after signing a one-day contract with the San Francisco 49ers, Jerry Rice officially retires from the NFL. This day in 2008, the star-studded American men's basketball team, led by the likes of LeBron James, Chris Paul, and Kobe Bryant, took the gold medal at the Beijing Olympics with a 118-107 win over Spain and the Gasol brothers. This day in 2018, in the French Open, they banned Serena Williams' black Nike catsuit from future tournaments, citing respect for the game and the place. Leave Serena alone. I like the catsuit. You stuffy French Open tennis officials. That's this day in sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1952, Mike Shanahan, father of Kyle Shanahan, American football coach, Denver Broncos. Before that, a brief stint under Al Davis with the Oakland Raiders. Mike Shanahan was born in Oak Park, Illinois. Born on this day in 1960, Cal Ripken Jr., American Baseball Hall of Fame shortstop. He has the Major League Baseball record consecutive game streak. Baltimore Oriole, born in Havre de Grace, Maryland. And finally, born on this day in 1965, Cheryl's big brother, Reggie Miller, or as he's known on the Dan Patrick Show, Reginald Aloysius Miller, NBA guard, Indiana Pacers. He won Olympic gold in 1996. Played for the UCLA Bruins, but I still like him anyway. Born on this day in 1965 in Riverside, California. Happy birthday, Reggie Miller, Cal Ripken Jr., and Mike Shanahan. There you have it. Today's sports birthdays, today's sports history. And now here she comes. Are you ready? On a Taco Tuesday, just about 13 hours ahead of Hard Knocks on HBO. Here it is, your salty shakedown.
Chris, I love me some real estate. I like seeing a house for sale when I drive by. I get home and I go inside. I know that there's photos of it. I want to see the layout. I want to see what they're working with. I want to see if I think the price they're asking for it is way too much.
Woo!
And I love when a celebrity or athlete lists their home for sale, because then I get to peek inside of that world, how they're living with their millions and gazillions of dollars. And the latest athlete to allow me to do so is one Mr. Bill Russell, the Boston Celtics legend, is selling his home of 50 years over in Mercer Island. It's for the cool price of $2.6 million. I don't know if you have that kind of cash laying around, Chris, but if you did, you could purchase this over 4,000 square foot home. And as beautiful as it is, the interesting thing is he's leaving his trophy case behind with a signed basketball for the next owner. Says he hopes that they enjoy the house as much as he did for 50 years. And he also says he'll miss the house dearly. He'll miss the privacy, the views, the peacefulness. And he said most of all, his hot tub.
Nice.
Which I found interesting. I mean, you think the dude can afford a hot tub? No word on where he's moving to. It kind of makes it sound like he's going to a condo or something where he's going to have neighbors really close, and he's not going to have a private hot tub. He's going to have to go use the building's pool. But also in the beginning of the summer, he announced that he'd be auctioning off a lot of his memorabilia, and that will be taking place sometime this fall, early winter in Boston. And then he now sells his house with his trophy case staying behind, I guess without the memorabilia, because he's going to be auctioning it off, but it is going to have that ball in there that is signed. So I guess the trophy case that can be filled up by whoever owns the house next. But what's the deal, Chris? What's up with Bill Russell? I mean, why get rid of all of these mementos and memories? And, why move on now? Why not just live out your life enjoying and remembering everything that you did in your career with those things?
Maybe the older he gets, he's realizing that, he has enjoyed these accolades, these mementos, these trophies, these honors, and maybe he's just choosing to let them go at this time, and maybe someone else can enjoy them. I wonder that at $2.6 million, if you've got that kind of money and you're a Boston Celtics fan or you're an NBA fan. I know Tim Duncan, reveres Bill Russell. They've become great friends. I've seen great footage of them sitting around just watching basketball together. I remember when Coach Greg Popovich's house went on sale last year. It's got a wine cellar in it. And then at about the same time, right about a year ago, first man to walk on the moon, Neil Armstrong, who has since passed away, but the home he lived in when he landed on the moon for Apollo 11 in 1969 went on sale for, it was only like $1.5 million in like League City, Texas. And I'm thinking, if I won the lotto, Shannon, as a Spurs fan, I would buy the Greg Popovich house just to say, hey man, I'm living in Pop's house. Let's party in the wine cellar. And as a NASA Apollo moon landing fan, if I had that kind of jack, I would definitely buy the Neil Armstrong house in League City, Texas.
You could even Airbnb those things. And
sleep in Neil Armstrong's house. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Some people will do their Airbnb and they've changed the inside, so it's like you're staying in Harry Potter's castle or some other movie thing. That's so I could be interesting. But still strange to me that Mr. Bill Russell is kind of parting ways with all the things he worked so hard to achieve. I guess he will always have his memories. All right, yesterday I got up from my daily nap and Mr. Joey Chestnut was trending. And Chris, I was very confused because it is now August. It's nearly September, which makes us almost 2 months removed from the July 4th Nathan's hot dog eating contest. So I'm like, why? Are we creating something else for him to discuss America? By shoving food down his face? Do we really need more of that? Turns out there was a study released by the New York Post where they looked at foods and the effects they have on your life. And they found that for every hot dog you eat, you take 36 minutes off your life, Chris. Compared to salted peanuts and rice and beans that can apparently add 10 to 15 minutes of your life.
Rice and beans adds minutes?
I guess because they're not really processed in the way that hot dogs are.
I'm living to 100.
Yeah, people did the math, Chris, and they're worried about Mr. Joey Chestnut because just in his Nathan's hot dog career, right? Only the finals, only the things that we've seen on TV since 2005, this man has consumed 1,094 dogs. Which, again, people took the time to do the math. That's over 27 days off your life. Should this be true, that each hot dog you consume is 36 minutes off of your life? Do we now need to eat in terms of minutes of our life lost or gained?
It could become a thing.
Putting calories on the menu next to items. I want to know how much of my life I'm losing for that slice of chocolate. I'd probably be better about dieting if I knew like the first slice of cake was an hour. That I don't know. I found it super interesting, and also again the 27 days for Mr. Joey Chestnut. That's just for his competing that we've seen. We don't know about the qualifying rounds. We don't know what he does in his free time, how he practices and prepares. This dude might die, Chris, from hot dogs.
And again, we talked around the 4th of July when they had the hot dog eating contest. I think it's like the worst thing. You talk about ugly Americans and gluttonous Americans, and I know it's a tradition, but I hate it. I think it's awful that people stuff hot dogs or anything in a food eating contest down their gullet. It's sick.
Well, I'm not sure I can call you a man.
It's wet. Sorry, and I'm not a man, Dave Ayler. It ain't my thing, baby.
Well, see, and they're thinking that he actually digests all these hot dogs. You realize that after they eat this and they get the belt, they go and throw up.
Oh yeah, he goes around the corner and purges. I'm sure
they don't sit there and he's not digesting 75 hot dogs.
It's gross enough
What?
already.
When you talk about a 30 for 30, Shannon, that's one of these days someone needs to like follow right after the contest, keep a camera on Joey Chestnut, and show what happens next
on the hot dog eating contest.
What do they show him like purging the I mean,
they don't show him throwing up, but they show him training.
But throwing up is part of it.
Well, he practices eating hot dogs.
The throwing up is only slightly more gross.
Right off the line. That's so gross. There you have it. If you were wondering why Joey Chestnut was trending yesterday, that's why. He's
Joey Chestnut.
27 days worth of his life in hot dogs. And finally today, Chris, you and I have bonded over this, that as much as we enjoy a good birthday because it comes with cake, I mean, that's a rite of passage, we don't want the attention. We don't want the attention that a lot of people crave when they go to a restaurant, and they want the people to come out and cheer, sing songs, and get a free dessert with light and sparkles in it. No, thank you.
Thank you.
I would think that we would then be in agreement that we cringe over Jumbotron proposals, even a simple kiss cam. It's don't put me on there. Don't do, please, no. Absolutely. If you propose to me that way, that's no. No is the answer. You're the one embarrassed. So I found it interesting that this man used the Jumbotron to send a message, and it's not the typical message that you would send via Jumbotron to his girlfriend. AA affiliate of the Cleveland Indians, soon to be the Guardians, the Akron Rubber Ducks, or Akron. Rubber Ducks.
I stayed in Akron, Akron.
Akron
I stayed there last month, or earlier this month.
With just over 3,000 people in attendance, a guy named Tim used the Jumbotron to break up with his girlfriend.
Oh, Tim.
The Jumbotron saying, Alyssa, this relationship is, all caps, over. Tim. Now, I now pose this question to you. How do you execute this? Do you say, hey, I'm going to go get a hot dog, and then you skip out, and then the Jumbotron shows the message, and she's not there to then dump nachos and beer on top of you? Or do you sit there and do you take it for the attention? Because clearly you are also an attention grabber if you are doing something like this, because everyone is now talking about it. It is trending. It is a thing. This could be the new breakup over text.
Unless Alyssa is in on it with Tim and they both want the attention and they mutually know they're going to break up. So, hey, let's break it. Unless if Tim did it without Alyssa's knowledge, Tim is a dirt bag, and that can really hurt someone's feelings. So Alyssa, Tim did you a favor. He's an absolute narcissist dirt bag. And I hope that Jumbotron took 27 minutes off his life. So you're better off without Tim. So that's awful. That's god awful.
The Rubber Ducks did go on to beat the Harrisburg Senators at 11-12, or
most importantly,
11-2.
Woo.
But do we also think less of the Akron Rubber Ducks for taking this man's money and saying, yeah, we'll put whatever message you want on there. We're a minor league team. Like, pay us money. We will take it, and we'll put whatever message you want, even if it is to break up with your girlfriend so publicly in front of 3,000 people, and it's going to become a national story. We will absolutely embarrass Alyssa like that for your money.
I agree. Yeah, the Akron Rubber Ducks, that you're dirt bags for doing that. Yeah, for taking his money for that. That's you don't
Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I mean, again, unless Alyssa is in on that, that's traumatic. What if she loved Tim?
What if she loved the Rubber Ducks?
Yes.
What if she's your number one fan?
Yes.
Every game. She can never go back there again.
Whenever she sees that stadium, she's going to have breakup flashbacks.
Yeah, because I'll be honest. If I was there, I'd be looking for Alyssa. I'd want to know who she is. I want to know what her reaction is like. I don't think they showed her on camera afterwards, but I would want to know. I would want to know if she dumped him, if he was still with her, or if he already ditched her and was headed to the parking lot. How would she get home? That's an awkward drive home. Did you meet there separately? I hope you did. Someone's gonna have to take the bus. Anyway, I hope this doesn't start a new trend of Jumbotron, either pranks and or messages to significant others. But there you have it. Today's Salty Shakedown.
Spectacular Salty Shakedown. But yeah, I never thought of this before, Shannon, before that story. You've got so many Jumbotron proposals as you document that it was probably just a matter of time before we start seeing Jumbotron breakups.
Yeah, you also have to question the relationship.
I mean, were they together for 2 weeks? Were they married? Were they dating for a long time? I mean, there's a lot of questions I have that we need to find this Tim.
Yeah.
And ask him what's up.
Well, and if you break up with somebody, have a little dignity, have a little compassion, do it with class. I mean, here's another thing. What other women, if they hear about this, want to get into a relationship with Tim? Because if it goes south, Tim's going to publicly shame you.
Well, maybe Alyssa was a cheating skeezer and
right. I mean, that is
part of it.
Maybe she had it coming.
Yeah. But again, that's why we need backstory here.
True.
I mean, at least Tim used correct punctuation. That's all I can say. At least he's got grammar skills.
Yeah, because you don't want to. If you're going to pay money to be on the Jumbotron, you don't want to screw up the punctuation. So, speaking of breakups, I saw as well. Steph Curry and Seth Curry's parents are breaking up. And isn't that kind of most people? So it's Sonia and Del Curry, the father. He's the father. She's the mom of Steph and Seth Curry. She is 55 years old. She put in the paperwork, but don't most people break up before their kids are, 20, nearly 30 something NBA millionaires? That just seems like a weird time to break up and divorce to me.
Yeah, and I think they've been together for decades.
Yes, I mean
I don't
clearly,
know much about them, but it was very strange to see them 20. And then people
they got married in '88
and start saying that players should try and date Seth's mom. Like, you guys,
it's a little weird. Yeah, you are gross. But thank God Dell or Sonia Curry did not put that on the Jumbotron at a Warriors game.
Their son's game.
Yeah, that would suck.
When they're both playing each other. We just thought you should know.
Yeah, we're breaking up. Here's our farewell message. You can visit us separately.
It's better to have TMZ break that news for you instead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, TMZ, for the news. Coming up, we might be breaking some Texas Longhorns news because she always has the inside scoop. Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7, going to talk Longhorns with us next. Big 8 o'clock hour coming at you on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Neil Cole, welcome in. Greg Helt, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, sir. Whoa, Dean Stone, I just saw that. Sticks coming to floors. Will they bring Dennis D. Young?
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
On a Tuesday, August 24th, we are moving closer and closer to college football, certainly Texas Longhorn football, 11 days away from that game between the Texas Longhorns and Louisiana. Nobody better to talk Texas Longhorn football than Taylor Estes, the managing editor at Horns 24/7. She joins us on Tuesdays, kind enough to join us this morning. Taylor Estes, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
Very well. And, I guess we ask you the quarterback question every time we talk with you. And I don't think we have any resolution yet. Do we know Hudson Card, Casey Thompson? Do you feel maybe this is the week that we find out who the starting quarterback's going to be?
That's a great question. I think this is definitely the week where I think the team will find that out. Whether, Steve Sarkisian decides to tell it openly to the media or not is kind of to be determined at this point. But, there's definitely not this is a tough situation, and I feel like this is going to be a question that continues, especially if we don't get it out publicly for Steve Sarkisian. We'll probably have the same question next week. But the good news for Texas is, Texas held their second scrimmage of fall camp over the weekend. And from everything that we are hearing on our side from sources who were able to be at the scrimmage, it sounds like both quarterbacks did have a much better performance in this scrimmage compared to the first one. The first scrimmage, Steve Sarkisian came out and said that neither guy really played up to the standard that he believes is acceptable, and that either of the quarterbacks would view as acceptable for their own performance. So hearing more positive things about the quarterback coming out of the second scrimmage is a positive sign at least. But, at this point, I feel there's part of me that kind of feels for Sarkisian. On the other side, it's like, well, this is why he makes $5.2 million, because this is going to be a difficult decision regardless. Keeping both of those guys engaged, especially in the transfer portal era of college football, is not a job that I would want if I was a head football coach. But, again, that's why he makes $5 million. And he has the good news, I think, for Texas, too, is he has two capable guys. And Steve Sarkisian has said that a lot of times, coaches aren't going to sit there and say, we only have one guy, and nobody else. But the reality is, Hudson Card and Casey Thompson, both have high upsides. Whether, you want to go with the older guy to try to keep him more engaged so he doesn't enter the portal, that may be something that Steve Sarkisian is weighing. But I do believe that Texas has two guys capable of, kind of handling the quarterback duties at this point.
Well, Taylor, I did want to get into you with that kind of portal question because, Casey Thompson dipped his toe in the portal for a hot minute not too long ago, and Hudson Card, being what is he, a sophomore this year? I mean, he still has time left that maybe if he doesn't get chosen to be the guy for Texas that he considers going elsewhere. I mean, it's a great problem to have two great quarterbacks that are worthy of the position. But you could find yourself in trouble should one of them decide to go elsewhere. If one guy gets picked and the other does say, you know what, I think I'm going to leave. Do you see that happening sooner rather than later?
Good question, because I think it depends on who it would be, and Shane, you bring up a good point with Casey Thompson. He has entered the transfer portal once before to look elsewhere and then decided to stick around and kind of play backup to Sam Ellinger. And he did that in an effort to kind of wait his turn in a sense. Well, then with a new coaching change and everything, it kind of changed everything. So it would be tough for me to envision a scenario where if Casey Thompson is not named the starter, that he sticks around if it's before the season begins. But the whole situation, I mean, with the transfer portal, I like to call it the Wild Wild West because it truly is. I mean, you just never really know what is going on there. There's so many names in there still to this day. And a lot of times it doesn't work out with players transferring. I mean, you look at former Texas quarterback Cam Rising. He transferred to Utah thinking that he's going to be the guy. And then Utah just announced yesterday that Charlie Brewer is going to be the starting quarterback for game one. So it's kind of a double-edged sword a little bit, but, I think I would envision if I were to, be a betting person, which I'm not, but if I were to say if one of those quarterbacks were to enter the portal, I do believe it would probably be Casey Thompson because, he doesn't have as much eligibility left. He's going to be a redshirt junior, so he has 2 full years of eligibility, where Hudson Card being a local guy, still being a redshirt freshman, I think having 4 years of eligibility, I could see him probably sticking it out a little bit longer if he's not named it. But, you're also right. The devastating thing that could happen is, one of those guys goes in the portal, then Texas is an injury away to having to rely on true freshman quarterback Charles Wright. Not that that's a bad thing, but you don't want to always, have a true freshman that's you have to rely on, especially at the position that touches the ball every single play on offense. So, it's a tough situation right now, but it would be very surprising to me, I would say, if it's not Casey Thompson, if he ends up sticking around.
Talking Texas Longhorn football with Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7. Taylor, given your years of covering the Longhorns in college football, are you surprised that 11 days out from opening kickoff to start this 2021 season, that a decision has not been either officially made or perhaps not even revealed to the players yet? Do you think we're getting a little too close now to opening day to be almost single digits away and not have a quarterback named yet?
Yeah, I mean, the clock is definitely ticking. And, what Steve Sarkisian had told us is midway through this week is when they're really going to start focusing in on game planning for Louisiana. So that's where I do believe that a decision will be made eventually, probably later in the week. But it's not a great situation to not necessarily know who the guy is. Now, I say that Steve Sarkisian, they know who the guy is. He just may not be telling us who the guy is at this point. But, it's kind of different this time around because Texas had a solid option in Sam Ellinger for 4 years. That's not really something that happens very frequently nowadays in college football. So I think Texas fans kind of got used to not having the quarterback situation, determined. But if you go back to prior to that, it was always an ongoing carousel. It felt like, and even dating back to when Charlie Strong was at Texas when he was deciding between Shane Buechele and Tyron Swoop, that decision was never announced until Shane Buechele was the first quarterback that trotted out with the offense in game one of the 2016 season. So it's been a while since we've had this type of situation. But, in my career, I've definitely seen quite a few quarterback battles not be, officially announced until the first game of the season.
Taylor, it looks like Dicker the kicker could turn into full-time punter as well this season. What happened to Ryan Buchevsky? I mean, the whole thing was he's Michael Dixon's cousin. He's going to be the guy. I know he's had a few shanks here and there, but why is Dicker the right man for this job?
It's kind of he's kind of the unsung hero, honestly, right now of fall camp because of Ryan Buchevsky. He had that torn ACL injury that happened. I think it was in November of last year. So he's still kind of, I think, coming back and getting used to his body again and getting used to the punting duties. But the positive thing for Texas is they do have Cameron Dicker, who has been excellent at punting. And we had the opportunity to talk to special teams coordinator Jeff Banks for the first time last week. And he said that in his 20 years, he believes that Cameron Dicker is probably the best kicker or best player who has handled kickoff duties, place kicking duties, and punting that he's had to coach. And, Jeff Banks is considered one of the top special teams coordinators in all of college football. So for him to say that is really, a glowing review, I guess you could say, of Cameron Dicker. But I think that with Ryan Bouchevsky, the biggest thing that's just been, kind of nagging him is him getting back into the swing of things after he had that torn ACL injury. He didn't go through spring practice either. So the coaches, I think, are getting comfortable with Cameron Dicker back there. But even though, you may not always want your kicker handling every single kickoff or, PK or even like punting or anything like that, Texas definitely has a solid option in Cameron Dicker. And he's been really, I wrote something for the 24/7 Sports Oklahoma State site earlier in the week. And I put there that the three of the best players probably that are the key returners right now, that Cameron Dicker is definitely one of them right now because of what they're asking him to do. And he's doing it at such a high level. So even though it is not ideal, it sounds like it's not that big of an issue.
Now, be honest, did you write specifically about Cameron Dicker and his amazing kicking skills for that Oklahoma State article because of the billboard/field goal image they kept showing last year during that game?
That's a great question. I didn't even think about that. But they probably, talking about Cameron Dicker on their site. They're probably like, oh gosh, she sucks or something for saying that. But that's a good question. I didn't think about that, honestly, beforehand. But, Oklahoma State, they tried to mess with him once before. I wouldn't mess with him again for sure.
She's Taylor Estes, managing editor with Horns 24/7. Taylor, last week, the Longhorns had an open practice that the public could attend at DKR. Any sense of, and I wonder, because on one level, we're so starved for football, and that's just such a great opportunity for fans to come out and see the team in that setting. But on the other, we still have COVID concerns and the Delta variant and all that. Were you there, and how was that attended and received? What was that event like, to your knowledge?
Yeah, I was there for the whole process, and there was quite a few fans. Surprised. It was a night practice. I don't know if that many fans would have showed up if it was an afternoon, because we've been out there a few afternoons and it is blazing hot outside. So, I think it was well received. It was always funny because I was sitting with a lot of the media members and we were just kind of joking about how it's so fun to watch fans a lot of times because, they're sitting there cheering for players that are making catches and we're like, right now, but I think it was really well received. And now, I don't necessarily know if Steve Sarkisian wanted to do an open practice that late in fall camp, to be honest. Most coaches probably would not, but, he stuck around afterwards, signed a lot of autographs, talked to the fans and stuff. So, I think it was a very important thing, especially for him being, a year one head coach. Obviously, fans were able to go to the spring game, but they really haven't gotten as much access to Steve Sarkisian as, it has happened in the past because of COVID. He's not doing as many events that other first-year head coaches have, basically been called upon to do when they've taken over at Texas. So I think that it was good to see that the fans came out there and that Steve Sarkisian was very engaging, especially all things considered. This is the crunch time of fall camp, going into the season, just being a few weeks out. And so for him to stick around, talk to the fans, I think it was a very positive reaction to him and for, Texas in general to get fans out there to watch a practice. I mean, that just shows how diehard these fans are and that they want football as much as possible. So overall, I think it was very well received.
Well, I think a lot of fans, too, are excited just to be in the stadium with things finishing up in that new end zone. And a lot of people also took note of that now Texas silhouette out there in center field. Taylor, I was enjoying my morning coffee on Saturday. Didn't think I'd be working, but all of a sudden I opened the fan guide that came with the season tickets just the day before. And in it is a whopping amount of new information about what's coming to DKR pregame festivities. I saw you wrote an article on this on Horns 24/7. has this always been in the works? I mean, I know Chris Del Conte and Drew Martin have always wanted to create a state fair-like atmosphere, but I mean, they're adding an entirely new section, and not to mention Big Bertha, the beer truck, is coming to town.
Yeah, Big Beer Fit. I like that one. I saw that. I was like, I think I'm on board for this one for sure. A refrigerated beer truck roaming around is pretty cool. But, with Chris Del Conte, I think most people who have, covered Texas and fans who have watched, just the changes that he has made since he came on has been truly impressive. And you can love him or hate him or what, but I think that Chris Del Conte is the best in the business. I think that he's so engaging with fans. And, the fact alone that he just, will tweet back at fans that tweet him, especially on game days. I'm like, geez, I would not want that job. Like, having to sit there, like, worry about my football team, their program taking the field, and then I'm tweeting back at fans that are having issues getting into the stadium. But I think overall, he's such a visionary person. Same with Drew Martin. And I really like what they've done with Texas game days. Covering Texas, this will be my 10th season covering them. It was impossible, it seemed like, to get fans to be around the stadium beforehand. Chris Del Conte saw that, it became where the home games really weren't a home field advantage a lot of times for Texas because there weren't too many fans engaged. And I know that also has to do with the product of play, and the product that they were seeing on the field wasn't great like it was in the early 2000s. But, what Chris Del Conte has done has been truly impressive. I really like the new additions, the whole Ferris wheel, but making it kind of similar to the state fair. I think it's genius because if you think about it, the biggest game Texas plays every year is not at home. It's at the State Fair of Texas. And so to bring that type of atmosphere to the home, stadium, I think is truly genius, honestly. And I think Texas fans will be really impressed with what they're adding this year.
So with all that in mind, I have to ask you this, Taylor, because you've been to plenty of away games. How does this atmosphere, do you think, compare to other schools, and particularly schools in the SEC as Texas gears up for that change?
That's a good question. So I have not been to a ton of SEC road games, or like games at SEC stadiums. So it will be tough. But from what I've seen, when you look at Ole Miss, the Grove, you look at even Texas A&M. I mean, their game day atmosphere is so impressive. Kyle Field's something that is a monster in itself. When the fans get in there, even if it's not a great A&M program, they still pack the stadium. So I don't want to, upset Texas fans, but I think that they're going to see a different game atmosphere when they do go to the SEC. From everything that I have heard, my husband's an Aggie, so he tells me he's been to LSU, he's been to a lot of the road games, and he tells me about those type of atmospheres. And Texas, I think, will definitely have to step up their game a lot when they move to the SEC when it comes to that stuff.
Taylor Estes with Horns 24/7. Taylor, we found out just a few days ago about a new licensing agreement regarding name, image, and likeness, and among other things, Longhorn players can benefit from sales of jerseys with their names on the jerseys. This is all new territory in the realm of name, image, and likeness. But as you're watching it evolve and unfold, from your perspective, how is this going to change the way things are done at Texas? And do you think, just given the fact that Texas is such a huge brand, will this just be another benefit for Texas as far as making the university and the program more desirable for young, talented athletes?
Yeah, I think so. That Texas did announce the licensing deal with the Brander Group, which essentially is a way to where players can now have, their names on the back of jerseys that can be sold to fans, and then they will profit off of those purchases. And that's huge. I mean, if you look at what this name, image and likeness stuff is going on across college football, it's going to change the game. And there is a part of me that wonders, with BYU, they had an alumni basically pay for all of the walk-ons to be on scholarship, like pay for their tuition through a company. I mean, this is a game-changing thing. I do think the NCAA has to find a way to either get out of the way and let college football come up with its own college football committee and break away from the NCAA, or they're going to have to get this under wraps because, this can be a huge benefit for any program. And it can also be a really, uphill battle for some of the ones that don't have the alumni base, like a University of Texas or like an Alabama or like a Texas A&M or Clemson, or the list goes on. So I think that this is definitely changing the game in general. I do have always been one that thought that it was kind of ridiculous that players could not profit off of their own name. That just seems illegal. It should be, in a sense that other people can profit off of their name, but they can't when it's their name. So this is something that I feel like needed to happen. But, if I call the transfer portal the wild, wild west, I feel like NIL stuff right now is the wild, 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 wild west. So there's no boundaries at this point. So, while there are no boundaries, I think Texas doing something like, doing this Brander Group deal where the players can basically make profit off of their own jersey sales and stuff. I think that's huge, and I think that needs to continue. And with an alumni base like the size of the University of Texas has, I think some of these big money donors that have been very influential in coaching changes may need to be influential getting some of these NIL deals for their student athletes if they really want to be competitive, especially when Texas does move to the SEC.
Absolutely. And Red McCombs, if you're listening in San Antonio, we're talking to you as well. Yeah, we love Red McCombs in San Antonio. Taylor Estes, a great follow on Twitter at Taylor Estes 24/7. A ton of content and a ton of content that can lead you to Horns 24/7, where she does that reporting that is so outstanding. Taylor, always enjoy it. We always learn more about the program. Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Anytime. I'll talk to y'all next week.
All right. We look forward to it. Thank you so much, Taylor Estes. Now, coming up, Shannon, we're going to talk a little Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball history that was made last night between the New York Yankees and the Atlanta Braves. We'll talk with David Munoz, who is a New York Yankees and baseball freak. But as much as David Munoz is a Yankees guy, I know that you have a Twitch account. Mm-hmm. And are you participating in the Twitch blackout? Apparently, there are Twitch streamers that are going to take a day off from Twitch. The blackout is scheduled September 1st. It is apparently designed to bring awareness to the fact that some users are employing dummy and bot accounts to flood some streamers' chat with abusive and hateful slurs and symbols. A, you're not doing that, are you? I don't think you are. And B, are you ready for this big Twitch blackout on September 1st?
Well, it's on a Wednesday, so I'll let you help me make the call of whether or not we stream our show to Twitch that day. I certainly stand by the sentiment, but I didn't know about this. I'm just hearing about this for the first time. Yeah,
they're calling them hate raids. Apparently there's hate. And I don't even know how you would do that. Get all these Twitch bots to attack one Twitch feed. I mean, if they attack our feed, we might find it entertaining. But so I guess we haven't arrived yet on Twitch until we get a hate raid on our Twitch feed.
Views, sir.
Yeah, there you go. So haters welcome on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else. We welcome all haters. So anyway, I saw that Twitch story and I thought of you. Coming up, let's talk some baseball. How big was last night? How rare was last night? So rare it hasn't happened since 1901. And what is on the horizon in Major League Baseball as we inch closer to the month of September when things get very, very interesting in the pennant races. David Munoz, broadcaster, jazz man, and Yankees fan. We still like him anyway. He's going to join us coming up. That and a whole lot more. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler making the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Okay, now let me get my tripod and try to set up. I'm going to. All right. Thanks for coming in with his Yankee mask. Very nice.
You know, you don't have to have me on camera.
Well, our viewers are clamoring for your
Right, sure.
for your presence.
You get scared. Very funny. Very funny.
Okay, now. So I assume you enjoyed the game last night.
Yes, I did. But like everything else, Streak come to a close. Is Shannon going to be on with us too?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if
she's there right now.
If she starts talking to me, turn your mic off so I can hear her.
I do that. Yeah.
Okay. So Shannon can see me right now?
He can see you right now. Yes.
There you go, Shannon. And Dave Ayler. Oh. It's scary, sir. It's scary. And this is why I'm not on TV like you, you know. This is why I'm not on TV.
Oh, come on.
You and the Ansura family and
Yeah. Since the era of COVID, I haven't done an
Ansura
commercial. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I just saw you the other day, but without your beard.
Well, they rerun some. They rerun some. When I first started doing that, there was like a monthly retainer
Okay.
that they had, and then oh, we lost you.
Okay.
You fell off the feed.
All right, that's fine. Well, it's bad for you, of course. This face has effects on things, sir.
it dropped off. So I guess
That's
we haven't done this
that's all right, sir.
much before, not with my cameras.
As I said, less of this is so good.
So this may or may not work. But yeah, I will. I do have to remember when Shannon talks to do that. And I do need to. Mute that mic or we'll have echo. So we're good there. Okay, hopefully that'll be better. Louisa says, this is not Yankee country. Come on, Louisa. Be nice to our guest, David Munoz.
We're going to hear from people,
Well, that's why until you gave me your reason, Jesse Bratton says, good morning, y'all. Go Yankees, go.
All right.
You got some Yankee fans in here. Yeah, Fernando, we're working on that echo. In fact, I think I might have just solved it. All right, let's see if that... Thank you, Fernando. Fernando says the echo is fine now. Axel J. Miller, go San Francisco Giants, go. Come on, Axel.
They're doing great.
Where's my Astro? And it died again. You're. I don't know why it's doing this.
Because of the face. I keep telling you.
Based on this.
I keep telling you. This is why.
Am I not on? No, I think I might have the fix. No, I am on Wi-Fi. Darn it. Maybe I should get off the Wi-Fi. If I get off the Wi-Fi. It's not going to happen.
Okay. Sorry, sir.
You're off the hook.
Sorry, sir.
You're off the hook. You're back on the hook.
Oh.
Chris Duel show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Special in-studio guest to talk baseball. And at the moment, you can see him on the live video stream. You know him in San Antonio all of these years, all over your radio as the Jazz Man, not only on the radio, on the iHeartRadio app, but hosting jazz events around San Antonio for years. And he's also a Yankees and a big baseball fan, which is why we're talking with him right now, the one and only David Munoz. David, how are you this morning?
I'm fine, Chris. Thank you very much for having me. It is baseball. To me, baseball is the best game ever invented. I love football and basketball and golf, but baseball to me is the purest of all games ever invented.
Okay, and I've asked you this question before off the air, but for our listeners, you're a San Antonio guy. You grow up in San Antonio. How do you become a New York Yankees fan?
Well, I've been around here all my life. In 1963, my dad and I will watch a Major League Baseball game of the week that was on Saturday afternoons. Back then, we had 3 TV channels, 3 TV networks, and most of the time it was a Yankee game. So I grew to love the Yankees, watching Maris and Mantle and Richardson and Kubek and Whitey Ford, all those guys. My 4 teams, Yankees, Spurs, Cowboys, and Longhorns. So those are my 4 teams because in 1963, I began watching baseball and football. And then I didn't start watching basketball until 1967, where they'd show the NBA game of the week on ABC, Channel 12 back then. And then the Spurs came to town in 73, and I said, we finally have our own team here. So that's how it all started.
Now, as a baseball fan, have you made the holy pilgrimage to Yankee Stadium?
I got to go to the old stadium 4 times. I've been to the new stadium 3 times. The last time I was there was in May of 2017. The first time I was there, though, was in 2003, walking up the ramp right behind home plate. And as you go up the ramp and you see more and more of the field, you get the chills. said, I'm finally here. And I felt my dad with me, even though he had died 3 years earlier, but I felt his presence with me there to finally be at Yankee Stadium back then.
See, as you cite that, David, and my favorite movie ever is Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams.
And to me, sports in general, but baseball in particular, you talk about your dad and, the whole thing in Field of Dreams, Dad, you want to have a catch. I mean, for so many young children early on, having a catch with your dad, and in your case, enjoying baseball with your dad, and for you to go to Yankee Stadium and feel the presence of your father after he had passed away. To me, that's one of the coolest aspects of being a sports fan, is the way we share it with either fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, family, friends. There's this whole thing about it that I think is just a tremendous aspect of sports.
Well, I began to play baseball also in 1963, played with St. Leo's over in the South Side, playing, CYO baseball. My mother took me to the practices because my father was working, but of course he and I played catch in the backyard. So watching the Field of Dreams game earlier this season, just a couple of weeks ago, it brought the chills once again. And I do admit I had goosebumps when I was watching that again. And it was just great. And so I played baseball for 11 years. I loved it tremendously. And baseball to me is the best game. And Yankees are my team, and they always have been.
Now, and we'll get into the Yankee history here in a moment, but Shannon brought this up earlier. Was the last Yankees loss the Field of Dreams game? So they've won 10 in a row. They have not lost since they were on that hallowed field in Dyersville, Iowa.
After that game, they defeated the White Sox twice, the Angels once, the Red Sox 3 times, Minnesota 3 times, and last night they beat Atlanta 5-1. All streaks come to an end. They've won 10 in a row. But for those that have been around a long time, the all-time greatest winning streak ever was the 1971-72 Los Angeles Lakers. They won 33 games in a row. So when you talk about that and put it into perspective, the Yankees aren't even 1/3 of the way there at this point.
But they're looking pretty darn good. So for people who don't know, last night, Yankees versus Atlanta Braves, it was a very, very rare and historic matchup. Why was that?
It was the first time since 1901 that two teams with at least 9-game winning streaks had faced off against each other. And that year it was Pittsburgh, which had won, I think, 10 in a row against the Phillies, which had won 9. I may have it backwards but that's the last time two teams with at least 9-game winning streaks had met in a game. And it was a note that was announced just before the game started. That's where I learned of it. And then this morning I did a little bit of research and found out the two teams were the Pirates and the Phillies back then.
So Shannon, how shocked are you that it's been since 1901 that two teams with a 9-game or better win streak have faced each? You look at the sheer math of games, that 162 game season. I just find it mind blowing.
It is, and especially when you think of those two programs and organizations that they would be the ones to do it here 100 years later, or 100. That's awful.
120.
20 years later.
120, right.
It's absolutely crazy. All right, so the Yankees, they've won 10 in a row. They were way back in the standings and way out of the wild card race. They're still not in first place in the AL East. What has happened to and I look at the Astros, who are kind of floundering lately. Why all of a sudden, what has made the the New York Yankees so good recently on this streak?
Well, they've won, I think they have gone 27-9, I think, over the last 36 games. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's about right. They actually started winning after July 6th, and then they acquired a couple of new players, as we all know. So some people may think, well, they're just buying another championship. Well, no, they began winning, going 27-9 before July 30th trade deadline. They brought in Rizzo, and they brought in Joey Gallo, who made a diving catch last night. This kid that's playing shortstop right now, Andrew Velasquez, he is born and bred in the Bronx as a kid. He grew up watching the Yankees. He's now playing shortstop for them because of the fact that Gleyber Torres is out with an injury. This kid that I've been watching now the last few games, he's got a lot of Derek Jeter in him by the way that he plays defense. He can hit the ball. He hit his first home run over the weekend. I believe it was Saturday. But he's got speed. He can steal bases. I'm not saying that he's going to be the next Jeter. The guy's already 27 years old, for one thing. So he's got that working against him if you want to say that he's going to be the next Jeter. Because Jeter came up in his early 20s or so. But this kid, Andrew Velasquez has a lot going for him. Now, what Aaron Boone does when these guys get the injured guys back, including Gleyber Torres and Gio Urshela, we have no idea. Now, one of the new things in baseball is that they do not expand the roster to 40 again, as they have in so many years. On September 1st, they can bring up 2 more, giving them a limitation of 28 players. Right now, they have 26. So whenever Urshela and Torres come back, we're going to find out what happens. They can't bring up any others after that.
David Munoz, the Jazz man, Yankees fan, talking a little Yankees and Major League Baseball with us. You alluded to the fact, going on this streak now, that people might say once again, here go the Yankees once again buying a championship. Now that is kind of the wrap on the New York Yankees. They've got all of this money because they make so much money. You know, they're the kind of the equivalent to the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL and in other sports. Yet the Yankees, the way you can spend money in baseball and acquire players, the Yankees have used that to their advantage. Is that something that, as a fan, you're happy about? Do you not like it when people bring that up and take shots at the Yankees? How do you respond to it?
I respond to it very simply. If that's how you're going to be talking about the Yankees, have your ownership open up their wallets and bring in players for your teams as well. Now, having said that, the Dodgers and Red Sox are 2 of the biggest spenders in all of Major League Baseball. And who won last year's World Series? The Dodgers. Okay, the Red Sox won a few years ago as well. So that's what I say, is that if you're going to be bad-mouthing the Yankees for spending the money, have your team's owners do the same thing, and then we'll see what happens. Now, the Yankees have also brought up several players on their roster through their own farm system as well. So it isn't all going out there and buying. Now, granted, these other teams also made deals with the Yankees to trade as well. As I just mentioned earlier, Joey Gallo and, of course, Rizzo coming over in trades. So those are two acquisitions that were not free agent signees, in other words.
Now, Shannon, you're not a huge, you and I talked about this. You and I don't really get into baseball hardcore until about now, September, when the pennant races heat up. Certainly, we're all in when it comes postseason time in October. But as you mentioned earlier in the show, football's heating up now. So, Shannon, you're going to find a little time for baseball? Are you intrigued, or are you just kind of wait until we know who's facing each other in postseason?
I'll wait for the World Series. That's my plan.
Oh my!
All right, David, you love your baseball. You say it's the greatest sport. How do you feel about people like that, or people even like me who don't really till late August, maybe September, I start getting more interested?
It's understandable to the people who love football and who believe that football is the greatest game ever, because they play only 17 games now, with 16 games for a number of years. Major League Baseball, 162 games, and even though there are 162 games, early in the season, your favorite team may have blown a 5-2 lead and lost that game. That game at the end of the year may have come back to haunt them at some point or other. So, and then bringing up the Astros once again, people are questioning why fans around the league are booing and heckling the Astros. Well, we didn't know about the 2017 scandal till after the 2019 season, and it was Mike Fiers who brought that up. So
dirtbag,
right? So that was brought up after the 2019 season. So last year, pandemic, no fans, nobody could give the Astros a hard time. This is their first year to give the Astros a hard time, so that's why it's still going on today. It'll still go on for another couple of years. This is going to be the worst year, though, in my opinion, because it's the first year back since last year we had no fans.
And see, that's why I want the Astros to win. I want them to win it this year, just in your face to all of those fans,
and they could
who've been attacking them.
And they could. Let's not forget about the San Francisco Giants and the Dodgers playing very good ball as well. And even though the White Sox have lost a couple of games recently, they're still well ahead in their division as well.
David Munoz, who in another life, another hat that he still wears, been doing it for years. You put on a great jazz program that people can access on the iHeartRadio app. If people want to hear that, how do they do it?
They download the app for free, then look for Smooth Jazz San Antonio. And thank you for asking about that, because October will be 32 years of hosting Smooth Jazz here on the radio and on the app as well.
32 years hosting Smooth Jazz San Antonio.
I was only 5 years old when I started.
How long have you had that voice, though? You've got this great,
seriously,
it's like a voice, James Earl Jones radio voice you got going on.
The voice started changing when I was around maybe 10 or 11, and that's when it all started.
See, they told me at age 16 my voice would stop squeaking, and it still kind of squeaks. So, They lied to me, and I'm still a little bit bitter. David Munoz, broadcaster, jazz man, Yankees and baseball fan. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, David. Shannon, in the final couple of minutes here, you brought it up, and I'm excited. Hard Knocks tonight on HBO. Anything specific you kind of hope they're going to reveal unto us about the Dallas Cowboys on Hard Knocks tonight?
I'd like to see a little bit more of Dak throwing. Maybe they last episode they got a little bit more into personalities of players that don't speak to you immediately. So I'm looking forward to that and maybe getting some more storylines out of it. Unfortunately, they usually stop the episode after the preseason game, so we won't get that immediate reaction to what might happen with Danucci after that awful game, but we will get to see that on-field reaction, and so I am looking forward to that.
By the way, I am Andy Everett's fill-in host for the golf show here on Ticket 760 on Saturday mornings. And I do about maybe 15 golf shows for Andy a year. And I'll be back on for Andy coming up on September 4th. That's a week from this Saturday. My first golf show since February. Andy's been very, very good about this. And he's been hosting that show for a long time. So we'll be able to talk some golf as well. Saturday morning, September 4th from 8 to 9 right here on Ticket 760 as well.
Thank you. And David Munoz with that little paid public service announcement for the golf show on Ticket 760. And of course, if you're up in Austin on AM 1300, The Zone, you can catch that as well. Shannon Salty Sweeney, great show as always. Great Salty Shakedown. Always enjoy it.
Thanks, Sarah. We'll do it again tomorrow. And I encourage you to be like me and go to bed on time and get up early and watch Hard Knocks.
I'm gonna try to discipline myself to do that. So I'll be fresh and I'll see it fresh tomorrow as well. Dave Taylor, soundscape stylist on a plain shirt Tuesday. So now you went with the plain shirt today, so you're gonna wow us with maybe a Molly Hatchet shirt or something really exciting tomorrow.
I don't have any Molly Hatchet shirts, but I'm sure I can come up with something.
You got an Alice Cooper shirt?
Oh, of course.
You do have an Alice Cooper shirt.
Of course.
I'm very, very impressed. All right, we're going to hear the big alignment announcement, ACC, Pac-12, Big Ten. We will pay close attention to that. We'll talk about that tomorrow if there's any big breaking news for the Salty One. And thanks to Taylor Estes as well. She absolutely rocked on the Longhorns. We'll see you tomorrow. Adios.